Please call the next case.
Oh, yeah. Now I'll lie to you and say no, so you can get out.
Agenda item number 2, 1002 Wheeler Avenue.
If you guys could just please quiet down so we can call the second case.
The next case on the agenda, 1002 Wheeler Avenue. Oh, is it? Okay. Still.
Please raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Leanne Perry, 1514 Drinker Street, Dunmore.
John Perry, 1514 Drinker Street, Dunmore.
John Cowley, 932 Sunset Street, Scranton.
Thank you. You may proceed.
I'm here to seek a variance to construct a new 5,000 square foot child care facility on 1002 Wheeler Avenue, former Hiles property. The intention is to raise the existing structure that's there and put up a new facility, 5,000 square foot facility.
Okay, so you're going to construct a new construction, is that what I heard?
Yes, new construction, 5,000 square foot child care facility. Raise the existing building and have approximately square footage for approximately 100 students, 35 staff. We have adequate parking as well.
How many parking spaces do you have?
We have 40, we need 30.
So you're not going to take over the second lot that's there? You're just using the lot right by the building then?
For parking. I think there's a map, I gave those maps when I handed the application.
Yep, I can see that.
Okay.
And what I'm asking is, years ago, Hiles extended, whether they took a house down or whatever, they said, are you using that whole,
The whole lot.
all the way down to where
Yeah.
the house is basically?
Yep.
Okay.
The existing building will be parking or future use.
So whereabouts on the lot? So let's assume the building's down.
Did you see the sketch that we sent in? We sent a lot sketch with parking and the proposed footprint.
Did you say that you were going
It's
to...
attached to the application.
Yeah, I see it now.
Did you say, you said you were going to completely reconstruct, which means demolish and rebuild?
Right. New building.
Answer my question.
Because the application doesn't...
So just to clarify, the Hiles building will come down?
Yes.
The new building's not going there, parking's
No.
going to go there? And
Just
the new building's
parking or
going?
future. Not even parking there, it's just green space possibly.
Okay, so where we're looking is to the left of the original building?
Right.
If we were on Wheeler?
On Wheeler.
Okay.
If I'm looking at this correctly, that's 16 feet from the edge of the building to the property line?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an outdoor play area?
Yes.
Where would that be?
In the court, inside the, it's a 90-degree building, it'd be inside the play area, or the building. Be like a courtyard.
A fenced-in courtyard, correct?
Yes. And how close would that come to the boundary line?
The playground?
Yeah.
Didn't think about it, but imagine what.
Well, I'm looking at your neighbors there.
Yeah, well, we would stay in between the, wherever the setbacks were, we would stay in.
I'm pretty sure, did you say the playground was inside?
No,
It's not
I think he's
inside.
talking about it
Okay.
here.
It's in the inside corner of the building. The building's an L-shaped building.
You talk about this
Be on
area
the
here?
inside corner.
Are you talking about this area here?
Yes.
You can come up if you want to. Just, I want to make sure you're talking about in here. Okay. Okay. It's going to wrap around it, basically. Well, depends on how big it is and how close you come to the boundaries. Okay.
If you make it equal to where the building is.
Dan, I couldn't hear.
If you make the playground even to what the building is, so it's no closer to the neighbor than the building.
Right.
You said 100 children?
Yes,
And what ages would those children be?
6 weeks to 5 or 6 years old, depending on when they go to kindergarten.
And would you have separate play areas for smaller kids?
No, we'd have designated times, but depending on the size of the playground, it's 60 square foot per child for outdoor space. So we would have, staggered times for each group to go outside.
What kind of lighting are we looking at for outside in the parking area?
Probably pool standards, pools.
But you do plan on lighting it at nighttime, or?
There'd be some security lighting, yes.
So basically like automated, like lights that go on with sensors?
Correct.
A building gonna come down first,
Yes,
and this is all one level,
yes,
the new facility?
yes.
Dan or Jack, either one. So they need at least a minimum of 10 for the students at 100, am I correct? 1 per 10?
One per 10 children,
How about staffing?
one per non-resident employee, and a designated space for drop-off and pickup.
So how many employees did you plan on?
35. Across the street on Ash Street, it's not showing in this drawing, but there's another empty lot.
That's not what I'm asking. I asked
Okay.
you, how many
35,
employees do you have?
35. When I get to full capacity, every day I'll have about 25 staff
Okay, I wasn't sure if I heard you
daily.
right, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Do you own any daycares anywhere else?
I do. I own 2 daycare centers in Dunmore. I'm branching out for a 3rd center.
And they're filled 100 kids too?
Between both schools, I have 175 children on the roster, and I have a year waiting list.
25. And I know you answered this already. How many spots you have in the parking lot that you have there right now?
What you're looking at on this sheet, there's 20, but across the street on Ash Street, there's an empty lot that's also going with this property, and there's an additional 20 on that.
So, do you own this lot yet?
No, I'm under due diligence to purchase the property.
And,
I'm in an agreement of sale right now, contingent upon zoning.
and that lot is definitely part of that package?
Yes.
Yes, it's already marked for parking and it's paved.
And how many did you say was there?
Pardon me?
How many spots?
There's 20 across the
Across
street.
Okay.
And what will the hours of this facility be?
6:30 a.m. until 5:30.
So I assume you'll have some like cross shifts, some people.
There's going to be staggered times, throughout the day. Kids will be dropped off, starting from 6:30 till about 9. Some coming, but that's the staggered times, and staff as well will be staggered staff times, coming and going at the end of the day as well.
Jack, did you happen to go out and see this? Because we didn't know anything about this other parking lot. Did you?
I was aware of the other parking lot, yes. They mentioned it to me in the very first meeting.
And it is paved already, and there's 20 spots over there?
Well, I didn't count them out, no, but I suspect that that's fairly accurate, yeah. Yeah, it's a nice size lot.
Could the across-the-street parking be used for your employees only, and for the pickup and drop-off?
Right.
The spots on-site?
Correct.
Can we do that?
Yeah, across the street.
Is that what you intend to do?
For staff only across the street, correct? And then drop-off, pickup will be on site.
And did you measure the lot across the street for the spaces? You're saying 20, is that accurate?
Yep,
9 by 18?
yep.
Yeah.
How big's the
okay.
lot?
Across the street?
Yes.
I don't know offhand. 40 by 150.
Is that accurate?
Well, excuse me, 37 by 150. That's accurate.
20 spots, even at 150.
So they'd all have to be on one side of the lot, the parking?
It's all on one side, and then there's linear, like 5 linear spots to bring it to 20
Down the end?
on the other side.
across from each other. So in other words, you're saying they're angling in or whatever, and
They're
then
all,
this way.
like, they're perpendicular, and then there's a couple parallel.
18 is 27. Jack, does that leave enough? 'Cause, I mean, if they're 18 foot long, and the other ones need to be 11, if I'm not mistaken, if they're parking the way he's saying they're gonna park.
Yeah.
So that's 29, and the lot is 37. We have enough of a driveway there?
12 foot?
12-foot driveway is all you need.
We have 12 foot there? That's a nice
I'm
size.
not
Yeah.
comfortable not seeing that lot or not knowing about that lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Colley? Mr. Colley, you're familiar with the lot?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the lot.
Could you explain
What would
the
you like
size
to
and
know?
how it's laid out?
It was a 40-foot lot, but the previous owner sold 3 foot to the adjoining property owner that needed the space because of an encroachment. So it was reduced to 37 feet.
So pulling that lot is 37 feet wide, 150 feet deep.
Correct.
So are we having a buffer problem then with that 37 feet wide?
There,
Again, with the driveway between them?
Is there any buffering there now?
between, even if we could only park 15 cars where you're talking about, the site upon which, the lot upon which Hiles is built, together with the residue of the lot that they're going to build a 5,000 square, Hiles has got to have 80 or 90 parking spots right now.
I don't disagree. I'm
Right,
just going
so-
by what this.
Right,
what we
so
have
if you,
here before
if you
us.
assign 15 due to your concern, which is a legitimate concern, to the lot across the street on Ash Street, and then the balance of whatever they'd need, they can certainly configure that within the space that they've got.
And Jack, if this were to go through, would you be able to, you could go over there and do some sort of a contingent upon your approval? Sure, absolutely. And if you don't think that it's appropriate, then it's just
Well,
no approval?
I would say put the maximum number of parking spots across the street, and then whatever is still necessary to put on site, we can put
Right.
on site.
So Dan, what's the total they need altogether? Do we know?
Well, they need 35 altogether.
There's definitely more than 20 spaces at Hiles.
There's more than 20 spaces at Hiles, even with the, with the
15
building.
across the street.
Pardon me,
I said
Jen?
if there's 15 then across the street.
15, so it'd take you down to 20 spaces if you need 35.
Right.
So this area
This is still parking here too, right?
up here, is that your property as well, at the top?
Yes.
Here, for sure.
All up in here.
That's what you get.
So is that the property line? No, I'm saying, let's stand up here. So this is where the building originally was. So does the property line come from here all the way back here? I'm just trying to look at the position part.
Even if you had to come over.
Yeah, we could do that right here, too.
I'm gonna ask you this a third time. How many's here? How many's here? I'm gonna ask you a third or fourth time. Yeah.
There's 19 shown.
19.
There's 19 shown, so we're one short.
I mean, by rights, we should be able to get 16 across the street at 19.
9 by 11 on the side ones, like if they're parking against the fence, if there's a fence there. Yeah.
Right.
So 9 and 150 should get 16. And 19, right?
But again, I don't want to harp on this, but is there a buffer down at the end of that driveway into that lot between that and the next neighbors?
Right.
Is there already a buffer there or no? Buffer's going to be what, 3, 4? 4. So now you're going to take it down to 146. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because you have to have a buffer around your,
Yeah, okay.
We can, if you said we needed 40 spots, then they.
I think you could squeeze them out
We
of
can
there.
get
That's why I
it-
was
we can
questioning
squeeze them
that
out.
upper part, if you own that or not. All right. I'm done, Sean.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that would like to give testimony on this? Okay, there is not. So Jack, we're going to make a contingent that you verify there's at least 35 parking spaces.
Between the two properties.
Yeah, it's going to sit between the two properties, correct?
Right.
35 total. Right?
Yes.
So I'll make the motion with that contingency.
Thanks, Pat.
I'll second it.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Ms. Newcomb?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes, vote of 5-0, you've been approved.
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
John, when you lay that out,
Listen, that was a little easier than the last one, huh?
John, when you lay that out, give me a call so I can go over it and...
Ooh, okay.
Yes. Agenda item number 3, 900 Beach Street, 12 real estate.
Can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Nell Donnelly O'Boyle, 603 Arthur Avenue, Scranton.
And Rita Doria, 818 River Street in Scranton.
Thank you. You may proceed.
We are here to seek a variance for our small real estate brokerage. We're on the corner of Beach and Crown, and we really just use the facility as sort of like a storage facility for real estate signs, printer. We have 10 agents, most of which are part-time, so these agents just go in, get signs, make copies, what have you. But we're what we feel is on a commercial road, but we're in a R1 zone, but just about, well, yes, every block from Pittston up to Stafford has a operating business on it. So we're just seeking a variance to operate our business.
There was always a business in there. My husband and I own the building. It was Buscarini's Pizza, and then there was a couple other pizza places and a tanning salon. So when Nell and I wanted to open up our own office, we thought it would be a nice space because, you know, we don't have office meetings there. We don't take phone calls there. We're all on our cell phone. We don't really sit at desks or anything like that. It's more like Nell said, for, you know, making copies, picking up our commission check, getting our mail, that kind of signs, picking up our signs for the listings.
So is it safe to assume that you're as an on-need basis to be in that building?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Is there any parking at all for that property?
Yes, in the back, there's parking behind the building.
How many spots would you say?
2.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to give testimony in this case? Okay, if there's none.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Picking up real estate checks is very important.
What was that?
Picking up real estate checks is very important. Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Ms. Newcomb? Chairman Walsh?
Yes, vote of 5-0, you've been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5, 1325, I'm sorry, number 4, 1325 North Washington Avenue.
Are you an attorney?
I am.
Okay. Is anybody else going to be giving testimony, or?
They may, but to speed things up, I could probably just go through the facts,
Sure.
which they will
Sure.
agree with entirely. This is, we're seeking...
Just identify yourself for the record.
Oh, Ryan Durkin for the Hunts, Kim and John Hunt. We're seeking a variance for, to conform to a longstanding use at the property. It's in R2. It's been used as a 3-unit property since 1999. There was a fire in 2018. the property was fixed, and in requesting permits, we discovered that even though the city had had it listed since 2012 as a 3-unit property, had approved it as a 3-unit property for purposes of rental registration, and had accepted the fees, lo and behold, it was never technically a 3-unit property. So the property, as far as parking, has it's got 6 spaces in the back. It's got a 5-foot setback. The drawing shows all of that. And the lot is 200 by 40 feet. So there's more than ample parking. It meets the requirements under Table 6.1. And it's by nature, it's a 3-unit property. It has a kitchen on each floor, as you can see in the plans. The city inspected it in 2012 when my clients first applied for the rental registration, and they approved it as a 3-unit. And I have some additional documentation that actually supports some more of this, which I'll provide for the record. And as far as parking goes also, the parking behind the facility is identical to parking that's next door to the facility that's owned by Lackawanna County Jail right now. And in fact, in 2013, I think the jail tried to eminent domain the property, or the city condemned a piece of the property for a period of time, like one of the units within it. And even during that process, for one reason or another, the city never advised my clients that there was any violation of any zoning. So I think it qualifies for zoning by estoppel, or for a variance by estoppel, vested right variance. And I have a brief that I would submit into the record supporting all that, but generally I think it qualifies for a general variance because there's more than adequate parking, as the drawing shows.
Is the parking paved in the rear?
The parking is not paved in the rear. It's partially. The driveway goes back on each side. And there's 2 driveways, so you can actually, there's one ingress and one egress. So you can drive around the house. It goes back a certain distance, and then it becomes like a sort of a mix of gravel and dirt. It's actually graded better than the jail's parking lot next door. So, and my clients are prepared to engage in paving if that's a condition that's necessary to get the variance.
Did you say that was currently condemned?
No, it's not currently. It's the case that I was referencing was that it was condemned. The city condemned it back in 2000. It's currently condemned because of the fire. We're working on getting the permit to finalize the work that's to be done on the property.
So the application says it's an appeal and a variance. It said request for permit denied, so.
Yes, since we were here for some time, I figured I wanted to pick the best argument to start with, and I believe if we address the issue of whether this is entitled to a variance, the appeal was that we were denied a building permit on the basis that we had applied for a home improvement contractor's license, which is not adequate for commercial dwellings, which this would qualify as under the Scranton Code because it's got 3 units. We've remedied that. The license for one-time contracting was granted, I believe, last Thursday. I don't have a copy of the license with me, but I did get that confirmation.
So that disposes of the appeal part.
Yeah.
So we're just here on the variance.
Yeah, so the appeal, okay, because that was confusing. I didn't know how there could be an appeal and a variance.
I can actually explain that. When we initially looked at how we were going to do this, given the fact that we thought that it might have fallen within a non-conforming use, I wound up doing some research on a case called TKO Realty. And I was confused also when I saw the way that application was done because it included an appeal here. But I think the appeal goes away if the variance is granted because then it becomes a 3-unit property, and we also have the necessary license, and that would button it all up. And if the board would, I apologize, I don't have 5 copies of each one of them, but these are just for the record to make sure that we have all the necessary items addressed. Sure. I do have to pass it on to that.
Yeah, we can pass it down.
This is a copy of the application and the registration, and this is just a web page which shows that whenever you apply for registration, the city will send out an inspector from the licensing department to look at the property. So that confirms that in 2012 somebody did visit the property. My clients, if they were going to testify, we'd ask them. They would confirm that somebody did come out, inspect the property, and saw what was actually being used as a 3-unit. This is a copy of Howard's attorney for the owner of the property, William Hunt. His daughter, his son and daughter-in-law have a broad power of attorney to do this, as he is infirm. And that would bring me to the last point, which is Mr. Hunt depends on this property for retirement income, for audit. He also depends on.
I guess, can you go back to your microphone?
I'm trying to cover a lot of ground quick. And he also depends on it for medical coverage. He's, as the brief notes there, he's infirm as a result of 2 strokes that he suffered in 2016. So without the variance, he would actually be put in what I would categorize as irreparable harm, because medical bills are expensive and the 3 units are necessary to pay for what he needs.
So to recap, it was a 3-unit before, prior. Is that what
I'm
you're
sorry,
saying? To recap, you're saying it was a 3-unit prior.
It has been a 3-unit since 1999, correct?
And alongside the house, on each side is a driveway, am I
Correct.
correct? Is that just dirt? Is that paved at all, or?
I think one side is paved, one side is what I described there. It looks like
Okay,
gravel.
the 2 cars in the rear, because we're looking at overhead view, and it's hard to tell the land. Where do they exit?
They could exit out either driveway.
But is there enough room between, for them to come down alongside them cars?
Yes.
How much would you say?
I drove around there.
I did too.
When you go in, you turn and you actually straighten your car out before you turn. to
I
go
went,
back.
I went back.
Yes.
I'm just looking at this here.
In fact, I have a photograph that if it would help, it shows
Quite convenient, actually.
With 6 spots, is it required to be paved?
Required?
Pretty sure it does.
I believe it's 6 spots does. I think
Pretty sure it does.
Or 3.
So it does have to be paved, correct?
With the road to get around.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Down at the beginning too.
That's good, that's good.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to give testimony on this case?
I'd like to make a motion with a contingency that the...
there's somebody in
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see him come up.
Raise your right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Mark Seitzinger, 1112 Columbia Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509.
Thank you.
You're welcome. During this gentleman's testimony, he stated back in 2012 the property was condemned with no paperwork. The property was condemned during a drug bust by the Lackawanna County and Scranton Narcotics Division. I know because I was the one that condemned it. I was the building code official with the city of Scranton at the time and went on a lot of those raids. Yes, it was a 3-unit building. Yes, they do have parking in the back. It is not paved, okay? But it is a 3-unit building that is there. It was designated as a 3-unit building. It is clearly a 3-unit building. But during that time in 2012, that property was condemned during a drug bust by the city of Scranton and Lackawanna County Drug Unit. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record, that there was paperwork on that. There were photos taken of it. I know because I was the one that did it. So if the property doesn't have that information, nothing I can do about that now. I'm no longer here. However, it was condemned. It was inspected as a 3-unit building because that's what it was existing. I do believe that they do have enough room in the back for parking. There is a parking, I should say, driveway on the right-hand side, which is very close to the Lackawanna County Prison property line. And it does come around in the back and can come out on the left side of the building. I don't know if that abuts onto the Lackawanna County land where they park their vehicles now, but I'm also certain that the zoning code calls for 1.5 parking spaces off premises, off-site, basically off the street, per unit. So they would, and I believe under the code, it also states that it has to be paved, if I'm not mistaken, modified isn't adequate for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's, just to clarify, Mark is right, so there's 5 spaces required. They do have to be paved because they serve 3 units or more.
Right. Okay.
And to reiterate, my clients would accept that, conditionally, if there's a requirement that this be paved within a certain period of time that's reasonable, we'll follow the code, of course.
Okay.
And the property has been rehabilitated as far as the property, like we said, suffered a fire in 2018. I walked the property to assist with taking those photographs. Property looks fantastic right now. It's repainted, looks very good.
Good.
Now can I? Now can I?
I'll make a motion contingent on the paving of the rear area and the driveways on the side of the house. Take them to meet the ordinance.
Sorry, a second.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yep.
Ms. Newcomb?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes, voted 5-0, you've been approved. Good luck.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5, 1413, 1415 North Sumner Avenue.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
Dennis Rudowitz, 44 Vanderbilt Avenue, Babylon, New York, 11702. I'm sorry. Dennis Rudowitz, 44 Vanderbilt Avenue, Babylon Village, New York, 11702. RUTOWICZ.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. I'm here about to revert a property back to an R4 that was condemned back in January. It's been an R4 property for, as I understand, for a better part of 20 years, and because it got condemned, it was reverted back to an R2. I have some pictures of the property, if I may.
Thank you. What was it condemned for?
The heat. The heat went down, and there was a complaint, and, could you hear me? Yeah. Okay. The heat went down, and pipes were frozen, and the only heat in the building was space heaters, as I understand. There was a complaint made by the current tenant, and at that point, the current owner ignored, apparently, the city of Scranton, and you guys went and condemned it on the 18th of January, 2018. So it's just a little over a year and a half or so since it's been condemned.
I have concerns about the parking, because I went up into the driveway and I turned my car, and the way you have your parking, I don't know if it's diagonal or not, there wasn't enough room to back out with just my car, no other cars next to it. So my concern is there's not enough backup space, and if you do it the way you have planned, you're backing onto the street. Is that correct? Like, you want them diagonal?
When I took those photographs, they were measured at 1,400.
Based on this drawing, it looks like you have them kind of diagonal. Either way, I mean, I didn't see.
I think the zoning is for 6 cars for 4 units, and
Yes.
It's currently about little over 1,400 square feet. The first 100 feet in length are paved. I think the last 15 or 20 feet are gravel.
Yeah, see, the spots have to be,
Is that,
is it 9?
the drawing we're looking at, are these lines parking spots?
That's what I was assuming.
Not this is what we got.
I believe that was submitted by his contractor.
Okay,
That's what I was referring to.
okay, because
And it says the parking lot is, driveway is 102 by 14. Aren't spots, but the parking spot is 9 by 18?
Correct.
So there's not even room to fit a car, like lengthwise, if it's only 14 feet wide.
I think his measurement on that is inaccurate. I think it's 24 feet, the width of that driveway.
I measured it, and I
What did it come out
found,
to?
and that's what's confusing on this drawing. There's lines. As far as I'm concerned, this is where the house sits. When I measured it, I got the 24. I didn't get the exact 60, but I got a lot of about 83, which I think we have 74 in the drawing. So I had a little less blacktop than is in the drawing, but it was close. But these lines, I think, are what are confusing people. I didn't look at those as parking spots. I believe that's where the house sits.
Grass in the house right there.
Because it says house next to it.
Then I don't know what that.
I think
buffer is.
there's, is there a walkway or something?
There's a grassy
Is there a
area there, I
grassy
think
area or
is what it
something?
is.
There it is there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a slope, but you can't park on it. I think it's sloped and it's,
That's the slope, the
yeah, it's
jagged
in
lines?
this picture here. Yeah. It drops down, looks like about 5 feet when it comes down.
So is the parking area, the blacktop part
Yes.
of it, am I correct?
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, because it looks like the rest is unpaved. It's grass back there when I was over
Yeah.
there. My concern is he only has 2 spots. If by just using the pavement, we can't stack cars, so there's 2 spots on the property.
Yeah, I didn't measure it, but you said if he was to dig out that embankment with some kind of retaining wall, would he gain enough?
He could take 3 feet away and get to 27 and get another spot, but I don't know if you want to dig around that foundation. And that's his decision to make, but. But as it sits right now, and, I mean, depending on where you're measuring, I mean, I measured it probably closer to the back of the house, but if you look at that, what's there on this picture here that was provided, that comes out pretty far.
Is that whole paved area, I see you have the driveway here, 102 by 14, is that whole paved area yours?
Yes,
The whole area?
whole area. As I understand, the gentleman who purchased it in 2008, he bought it as a 4-unit, plus there's a rear property on the property as well. There's a rear house on the property. The previous owner to that, actually, as I understand, this is what he told me, he actually bought the house next to this house and knocked it down and made it where it was in zoning for a unit.
So where the driveway is now, that was
As I understand, there was a house
the
there.
property that was.
And I think he
brought
bought
down.
both. He knocked down one for the ability to have a 4-unit.
Now, you said you're gonna manage this place
Yes, sir.
from Babylon, New York?
Well, I have a property manager, Sean Bingham. He manages all my properties up here.
So you own this place?
I don't know. I'm in contract for this house right now. Do you need a copy of the contract?
No. When you say contract, are you in the process of buying the house? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
I went to contract January 8th of this year, contingency on it being a 4-unit.
Okay, and you have a property manager locally?
Yes,
Okay.
Sean Bingham,
I think that
Bingham's
was the
Maintenance and
confusion.
More.
And let's go back to that driveway again. When I measured, I went right to the wall. I mean, he's going to need a buffer on that side as well, coming off that, I take it the wall, of 4 feet. So now we're taking it down to roughly 20 feet.
Well, if you put the cars in facing the wall, and I haven't seen it, so you guys know better than I would, but if you put the cars in facing the wall, you need 9 feet for each car, so you need 54 feet, which you've got 60 feet of blacktop. I mean, even if you go into the gravel, you know, make them pave a little bit more into the gravel.
Well, if he
in order to
uses the
accommodate-
driveway, if he uses the driveway, then he only has 20 feet, the car is 18 foot long, if you're saying facing it, so he doesn't have enough to back out of that spot then.
That's what I was saying when I,
You know what I'm saying? If he takes one, faces the wall.
Right, I see what you're saying, yeah.
even
there-
without a buffer, there isn't enough space to back
There's
out.
only 4 to 6 feet to flip
Yeah.
around, yeah.
Get out then.
Well, you come in the driveway and then put it over, you know,
It
just
looks
go over there.
like we're gonna have some issues with the parking. Maybe you'd wanna continue this and maybe sit down with somebody that can draw out this parking plan for you. Because what we're seeing, we're not gonna get to 6 spots from what we can see from this picture.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna need a better drawing,
Okay.
I mean, I think,
something
I
more
think there's,
professional than Sean's drawing.
there's somebody here that wants to speak anyway.
Yeah.
Raise your right hand, please.
My name is Jerry Fabricator.
Raise your right hand, please.
He can't hear.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Name and address?
My name is Jerry Fabricator, 1401 Church Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania. My name is Don Galinas. I'm representing my mother, Joan Galinas, who lives at 1426 North Sumner Avenue.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Galenas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say that the notification about this meeting apparently was up a week or so back, but all the signs were ripped down. I don't understand why.
Yeah, we had to repost this.
And if I'm not mistaken, I was talking to Jerry Chazen today, and you were with them. And I was talking to Jerry Chazen, the prior owner, and I was under the impression that this meeting was postponed. And I had a call, and Mr. Sweeney could attest to this. He said, no, it's still on. I'm baffled by that. But I lived in 1448 North Sumner Avenue, born and bred, 65 years in that area. I know the house well up until 2006, 2007. It was 2 units, maybe 3. However, it was owned by a nice lady, and we never had problems. Since 2007, 8, whatever, 9, it's been a nuisance house. There's been problems there all the time. The police are there all the time. Narcotics, matter of fact, the last time there was a meth lab in it. And it's the only 4-unit house, and at one time it was 2 units. I don't know when the transition occurred, because it was 1413 or 1415. But somewhere along the line, it went into 4. And when Mrs. Archer owned it, it was fine. And then the last 10, 12 years, whatever, whether the references, people coming in, whatever, but, and this is for public record, when I talked to you on the phone today, I'm not the only person that has concern, because rumor had it that the new owner was going to put a halfway house in there, a drug rehab unit. And then when some people called from the neighborhood, they said nothing could be done. I said, oh, time out, we have some say. I mean, we do pay taxes. But that's just for record. Mr. Sweeney could attest to the fact that I'm not the only one. I'm here because several people couldn't make it tonight, but I guess he had a dozen phone calls about this situation.
That is correct. We had quite a few phone calls over the last
Okay.
day or 2 stating
And,
that this was removed from the agenda.
And for public record also, I'd just like to note that over the last 10 years, there's probably been 10 to 12, maybe 10, 12 police on the scene, at the site, because of whatever reasons, drugs, family squabbles, and that neighborhood has been quiet all, from Lincoln Avenue, Sumner down to Church. We've never had problems there, and that's the only. And I just like to try to keep the neighborhood as good as possible. So that's my only concern. I think the drug rehab, with the potential of that coming in. I actually talked to Mr. Sweeney about zoning, and it's 200 yards from a school. Neil Armstrong is right at the top of the hill. I shot it with my rangefinder just to see the distance. It's like 175 yards, so that would be an issue too, I think.
But aren't you making an assumption?
I have to apologize here because I'm hearing impaired. I have a severe case of tinnitus in both ears, so
Aren't you making an assumption, though, it's a new owner, and aren't you going by the past, and now you have a new owner coming in? Are you
Well,
assuming that
I
the same
heard
problem's
that-
going to happen?
I don't know how the new ownership is, because according to Jerry Chazen, the prior owner, he owns it until he's, I don't know, you're paying him so much a year for 5 years or something?
No.
Well, that's what he told me. But he also told me tonight on the phone, and you were there, that this meeting was...
I wasn't with Jerry tonight.
Oh, you weren't with Jerry Chazen tonight?
Tonight?
Yes, this afternoon.
For breakfast, I'm in it for breakfast, yes.
Yes, and I was talking to him, and he said that this meeting was postponed because your attorney was on vacation.
When he spoke to you, I was in the bathroom.
Gentlemen.
Said,
He came back.
okay. I was.
You got to speak in the mic, so our
I
stenographers
apologize.
can hear you, so.
But I was a little baffled by that, so.
Okay.
For what it's worth.
I'd just like to say that the house has been, as Mr. Fabricatore spoke, a nuisance for quite a while. It's been shut down many times because of drug raids. It burned. It was condemned twice. It's still condemned since January of 2018. And even when it was condemned, and currently right now, you can see somebody up on the 3rd floor, which is in the attic. There was a car accident this morning on the street in front of the house, and my mother said she went out to see what was going on, and she saw somebody looking out the attic window. So the current owner is absentee owner. He comes around maybe once a month to collect the check when somebody's supposedly living there. The past year and a half, it was let go. Nobody was there cutting the grass, doing any maintenance. About last fall, he came around, started to clean it up because he's trying to sell the place. But it's been a nuisance. My mother is, well, I can't say how old she is, or I won't live too long, but she's at the age where she shouldn't have to worry about this kind of stuff going on in their neighborhood.
So let me ask you a question. What do you want done with the house?
What's that?
What do you want done with the house?
Leave it, don't let it go to 4 apartments.
So, I mean,
You know, because when I was down visiting my mother, the little kids that were living there a couple years ago came over. She was talking to my mother. She said she lived there with her 4 brothers and her mother and father and 2 other, her aunt and uncle, and there was only 2 bedrooms in the place. So obviously the absentee owners aren't keeping track of what's going on. The police were called there for domestic quarrels, fights between neighbors, for physical, they actually got physical at one point in time. So it's, like I said, the absentee landlords just aren't cut.
From your personal knowledge, how many units have been in that house historically?
Historically, I know of 3.
3 units.
3. Thank you.
You can come up to the podium, yes. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
My name is Linda Hughes. I live at 1417 North Sumner, 4 feet away from this property. I lived there 27 years. The first 15 were quiet, and then this guy Jerry bought it. And then it went all to hell. There's been squatters, there's been grease fires started by tenants, where the fire went, water was going into my house through the window. And a lady fell off the top balcony onto the ground. There's been so many drug busts you can't even count. There's been a child molester living there. He got 104 years. He got these people on Craigslist, no background checks, no criminal checks, no job histories. And like he said, there was a family of 8 living in a 1.5 bedroom apartment right next to me. Packages have been stolen in the neighborhood from the people in that apartment that lived there. Loud music, burglaries, police chases, and the grade school's right up the block. My husband and I were disabled. I have a weak heart valve, so I don't have long to live, and I'd like to live the rest of my days in peace. So I've already had a nervous breakdown from this house, and it is a nuisance house. The place was so dirty, we had rats. That's how much trash was in the yard. Now, Marty Heenahan is his partner, and he wants to make 12 to 16 rooms, all with men that were on drugs, that could be molesters, rapists, we don't know. But it don't have parking for that, and it's not equipped for that. It's a neighborhood place. It's not for people like that. I know people deserve a second chance, because I'll be clean a year in July, because I've had a lot of problems with my back and neck. But that's what Marty has in store for it, he told me last week. And there's been squatters living in there. And it's really scary when you live next to a house that you don't know is going to be burnt down, if your house is going to be burnt down, or what's going to happen. And there's children in that neighborhood too. So you should get in touch with Marty and go over it with him, because either he's not telling you or he's just going to do what he wants when he gets in there. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
My husband and I just want peace. We want to live there till we die, and we just want peace. Thank you.
Thank you.
I recommend you come up with a new parking plan and maybe a reduced number of units.
Okay.
The house is condemned, yes.
Is it currently condemned?
Yes.
Is there anyone living in that house right now?
Anybody living in the house?
Yeah.
No. No, it's condemned.
And it was condemned last year, last January?
January of 18.
And you have an agreement of sale to purchase it. How many units was it marketed as? 4? How many units were you planning on buying it as? 4 or converting
Right now,
it?
there's 4 units, 4 individual units, 4 bathrooms, 4 kitchens, 4 living rooms.
That's the way it's set up now?
Correct. There was no alterations done.
Jack, when it was condemned, what did it revert back to?
In this particular case, 2, and I'd have to check the records. I'm not sure the whole building is condemned. I think only part of it is.
You obviously hear
So
his
that may
concerns, right?
explain why somebody might
Sorry,
be
sir?
living in one of the apartments. But if the whole building is condemned, then no one should be in the...
There's nobody in the house right
Good.
now.
You hear the concerns these people have.
Of course.
As far as you know, the accusations they were making about it being a rooming house, how accurate, in your opinion, are those?
First of all, Marty Heenahan is not my partner.
I don't even know. who
I'm here up in Scranton since 2012. I own 5 homes. I never have an issue with zoning. I never have an issue with police or drugs or anything. I do this. This is what I do. I'm an interior designer from New York. I come up here. I've done almost 10 houses up here. Never have an issue with anybody. I'm not going to open it up to a drug rehab. I'm not going to, in a perfect world, there'd be perfect tenants. It's just not the case. Chances are, if you can't afford a house, there's a reason for that. But I've never had a complaint with zoning, police, fire, anything. I come in here with good intentions. It's a big house. I consider it a challenge, and I'll do what I did the last 5 houses in Scranton. I didn't sign. I didn't close on this house to meet you people.
Would you consider what Mr. Walsh said about maybe filing seeking a new parking plan or a different plan for the building?
Absolutely, and if I have to revert back to a 3 apartment, I have no problem with that. None at all.
Okay.
Have you ever rehabbed a condemned property before?
Yes, I had.
Okay.
No talking community.
Would you like to make a motion for a continuance?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mr. Gattens?
Yes.
Mr. Marks?
Yes.
Mr. Palmetessa?
Yes.
Mrs. Newcomb?
Yes.
Chairman Walsh?
Yes, vote of 5-0, you have continuance till next month.
Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you.
ma'am.
See you next month.
Yeah, so you should contact me, and we'll get together to work on that plan.
Sounds great. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it. Do I leave the paperwork with you, gentlemen, or?
Oh, you want them?
No, I don't want it back. I mean.
Yeah, if you want to use them for the next time, you can.
Okay.
You too.
Agenda item number 6, Attorney George Reiner, 1010 Electric Street.
You get to go first.
What do you mean they get to go first? They get to go first.
I gotta do it the right way. Get it? Since this is before the board as a notice of violation, I believe Mr. Sweeney should go first.
That was my understanding, counsel.
Oh.
But I have for the board a memo, well, 5 exhibits.
No, I'm not getting paid. Shit.
No, you're not. Definitely not.
Are you going to testify from your seat, Jack? You gonna testify from there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yes, he's going to testify from here, yes.
Yes, I will be taking Mr. Hinton's place because he could not be here tonight.
Dan, does Jack have to be sworn in for this or no?
He's already sworn. From the beginning when he did the postings. Okay, you ready? Mr. Sweeney, since this is a notice of violation, would you set forth before the board what the alleged violations are?
The violation, in short, is operating a short-term rental in an R1A zone, 1010 Electric Street. This is not a rehash of the original case, whereas we had a bed and breakfast complaint. Mr. Reiner won that on appeal, and we are not here to argue that particular case. We are here because several neighbors have noticed that the Reiners are using the house as a rental, short-term rental, advertising on Airbnb, and the neighbors have issued complaints to us, everything from parking to customers of the Reaners coming up to their homes and knocking on the door trying to get access to their homes because they're at the wrong home. And because of these continual complaints, we've decided to initiate an action against George and Judy to basically argue against short-term rental. We've had several cases in front of our board recently where people have come to us to try to use their homes as short-term rentals, and the board consistently has turned them down. I guess we're here because the Reaners are doing it and others have been turned down. So I guess that's our case. We need to know, or we need to hear testimony as to whether we're right. And our position is simply it's a short-term rental in an R1A zone, which is prohibited. And I'm sure, George, you would have to argue that. I'm anxious to hear your argument against that.
Okay.
You can ask Mr. Sweeney any questions if you want to do that first.
I'll give him some documents.
I guess one of the main things, George and Judy, that was disconcerting to us is the Commonwealth case basically stated that you live at the house where the operation is going, and that's no longer the case. The house is not livable. You don't live there anymore, right?
Well, we have 2 residences in the city of Scranton. We have, and Judy will testify to this.
Okay, great.
We have spent far more time over the last 9 months at 1801 North Washington.
I see.
While we were painting and cleaning that up. Mm-hmm. We are moving back to 1010 by the end of the month to reside permanently.
Okay, well.
Until, as you know, you may know, the house is on the market. And,
I see, yeah, I know that.
But it'll be permanent until we sell the house.
Okay.
But if the issue is we're not there, yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. If the issue is we're not there,
that's just one issue.
If we're not there full time. Let me ask you about that. You were here for the first round of this.
I was.
Correct? And there were numerous neighbors.
Yes.
That came and spoke. And some of the items that you mentioned were complaints that were raised, parking.
Right.
And people coming and going, etc. You were aware that during the pendency of appeals that the Airbnb activity at 1010 Electric Street stopped.
I am aware of that, yes.
Okay. And after the Commonwealth Court reversed this board and the Lackawanna County Court of Common Pleas, that Airbnb activity to some extent resumed in May of 18, correct?
I'll take your word for it, yes.
Okay.
I wasn't sure when you started back up again, but I know you. I wasn't sure when you started renting again, but I know you did.
So, of the complaints that you say the department has received, were those received by you?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I should point out, when we posted it for this hearing tonight, at least 2 different neighbors complained to us about your prospective tenants going to their houses at late at night, knocking on the door, trying to get in. I'm just telling you that when we were handing out notices to the neighbors on Electric Street, 2 separate people stopped us as we were on their front porches putting notices on the mailbox. And when they asked us, what's this for, we told them it was for, 1010 Electric Street and the rental, and both said that they were quite upset by the fact that more than once people have come to their door looking to get into their property. One was at 11 o'clock at night. This was the other day.
I understand. Yeah. From the time that Airbnb activity ceased at 1010 Electric Street, and the time that you issued a notice of violation, how many complaints about 1010 Electric Street did the department receive? May of 18 until your letter, which I will represent to you, was
which was December 28th,
December, yeah.
2018.
Yeah. I don't recall one.
Pardon me?
I don't recall one call.
Because when I received this notice, I asked for I submitted a right-to-know request to find out what complaints, if any, had been asserted, or what activity had
Right, and there was,
taken place, and there was none, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I would admit to that. Yeah, that's correct. I don't think anybody was calling about during that period of time.
So nobody
The complaints pretty much started within maybe a month before the date of that letter that I sent.
The month before?
Yeah, November.
Okay. Do you have any written documentation of any of those complaints? Because
do
I
not.
didn't see any in the right-to-know response from the city.
And when I was responding, when I was asked to respond to that, I responded that I do not have any because everyone that called me, and there were others to Mr. Hinton as well, but everybody that called me wouldn't leave a name or a contact number, although some of them I knew who they were because I know the neighborhood, but nonetheless. No one was willing to fill out a complaint form, let me put it that way.
Okay.
And again, I would have to say it wasn't a huge amount of complaints, but enough to notice that you were back on Airbnb renting, which is what spurred the letters and the complaint.
Okay. When did LIPS, or when did the department learn that there was Airbnb activity at?
I would say about a month before the date of that
Just
letter.
about a month before?
That's when we went on to Airbnb, based on a complaint, by the way. And that's when we noticed that it was back up in advertising.
Okay.
About a month.
All right. In Exhibit 1 that's before you, that's May 18, 2016, notice of violation bearing your signature, correct?
I'm sorry, George, repeat that?
Appellant's Exhibit Number 1, May 18, 2016.
Yes.
That's your letter to us asserting a notice of violation regarding an illegal bed and breakfast operating within an R1A zone, right?
That's right.
Okay. That's a defined term in the current zoning ordinance, right?
I'm
Bed
sorry?
and breakfast?
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Defined.
That is a defined
Yes.
term in the existing zoning ordinance, correct?
Got this correct, yes.
Okay, and the notice of violation pertained to Section 306 of the zoning ordinance, right?
Right.
Okay. And that's what was litigated and affirmed and then ultimately reversed in favor of the Reaners at the Commonwealth Court, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Would you go to Exhibit Number 2, please?
Yes.
Exhibit Number 2 is a December 28, 2018 letter from you to the Reaners regarding a zoning complaint and advising us of an alleged notice of violation.
Yes.
Again, of Section 306 of the zoning ordinance. That's the very same section that was addressed in...
Number 1.
With Number 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the same issue that's raised in Exhibit 2 was raised in Exhibit 1, and that was litigated through the appellate court.
I would say not the same issue, George. The second exhibit refers to short-term rentals, not bed and breakfast.
Okay. Where in the current zoning ordinance are short-term rentals addressed?
It's not. They're not. And that's why we were referred to the section that says if it's not listed, it's not permitted.
Okay. And you say in your December 28th letter, end of the first paragraph, this information was confirmed via the Airbnb website. The posting started in May of 2018. Is that where you learned that the activity had commenced in May of 2018?
My understanding is it stopped for a period of time, and then at some point in time, it started back up again, and then shortly thereafter, we got a few calls, complaints, and then verify that it was listed on Airbnb.
Okay. Did you or anybody else at Lips investigate those complaints?
Mr. Hinton.
Excuse me?
Mr. Hinton, the director of our department.
Did he reach out for either Judy Riener or myself?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Did he reach out to your knowledge, did he reach out to people that called you to talk about 1010 Electric Street?
Again, to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Who made the decision to issue the December 28, 2018 notice of violation?
The director.
Okay.
Mr. Hinton.
And if you go to the next exhibit, number 3, it's the public notice pertaining to this meeting this evening, is it not?
Yes.
Okay, and we're item number 6, which is why we're here right now, right?
Yes.
And with respect to that, there's a little more detail. It's illegal short-term rentals and/or hotel/Airbnb use at this address. Again, you cannot show me in the 1993 zoning ordinance any indication of what is an illegal short-term rental by definition, correct?
You were right, right.
You can't show me where illegal or legal Airbnb activity is addressed, correct?
Just again, just in the section of 306 that states if it's not listed, either permitted or not permitted, that it's not permitted.
Okay.
And that would be, again, section 306.
Okay. And if you could go to item number 4.
I'm sorry?
Item number 4, I'll represent to you, sir, is a full and complete copy of the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania's decision
Yes.
reversing the board and the Lackawanna County Court of Common Pleas. Have you ever seen this document before?
Yes.
Or this opinion in one form or another?
Yes.
Did you read it after it was issued?
Read it and made some notes of it, yes.
Okay. Okay. Did you note the part where the Commonwealth Court said that Airbnb and similar sharing economy websites have expanded the possible uses of a single-family dwelling?
What page is that, George?
That's on page 11. I'm sorry, Jack. Top page, page 11. Top of the page, page 11. Actually beginning 3 lines down in the middle of the sentence. What's that?
Nothing. Yes, George, I see what you're saying.
Okay. And you were aware of that when you read it for the first time?
Yes, sir.
To your knowledge, and you're also aware of the sentence beginning at the bottom of 11, moving over into 12, the Commonwealth Court ruling once again, despite our ruling here, we note the city may, through its legislative authority, fill in the gap in the ordinance to address the complained of activity occurring on the Riener's property. To your knowledge, has the city made any efforts to determine has made any efforts to legislate or regulate shared market economy Airbnb activity?
Well, no, we tried, and the ordinance is also being redone as we speak, but no, there's been no change in the ordinance.
Okay, the zoning ordinance is enacted, that's a legislative piece, is it not?
Yes, sir.
That gets enacted by city council.
City
correct?
council, yes, sir.
And are there drafts of proposed regulations addressing shared market economy now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But
In
they
fact,
have not been adopted
Mr.
yet.
King has drafted an extensive opinion on that, which we had submitted to the people that are drafting our new ordinance. So he based on your ruling, to more or less address these issues.
I mean, I could add
Yes.
that Mr. Sweeney and I have approached Mr. King on not just this issue, but numerous other issues that have come up in the zoning ordinance that need to be changed, and have put that forward, but nothing has been done to this point.
While there's movement afoot, the 1993 zoning ordinance is still in effect.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Illegal short-term rentals are not addressed,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Airbnb is not addressed, correct?
Yes, sir.
There are drafts in place right now of legislation to address the shared market economy in Airbnb, correct?
Yes. Although very early stages, I might add.
Okay.
I have some highlights of my own.
What's that? No, I'm going to do it. Legal short term. Okay. If we, one moment. If you could go back to item Exhibit 2, Mr. Sweeney, your December 28, 2018.
Yes, sir.
You attached to your letter to me Section 306 and the table that comes behind that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on the third page, which is the first page of the table, across the top, residential districts, and then residential uses. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what appears to be, tell me if I'm reading this correctly, what appears to me to be permissible in an R1A zone is a single-family detached dwelling, correct?
Yes, sir. That is a permitted use.
And a single-family semi-detached dwelling is not permissible, or is permissible with some qualifications, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And a group home within a lawful dwelling unit is also permissible, is it not?
In an R1A, it is, yes, sir.
What's a group home?
Well, 4 people, up to 4 people, adults, in one unit, living together, not necessarily related.
So as long as the use that we are implementing at 1010 Electric Street falls within a single-family detached dwelling use, we're fine under the 1993 zoning ordinance, right?
Yes, sir. But I would also point out that I don't believe the Airbnb rentals being short-term that they are would qualify for a group home.
Would qualify, well, I never asked for group home. I'm asking, I said single-family detached
Single
dwelling.
family, yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Single family, you're correct. It is a permitted use.
Okay. Now, there's been some, let's move ahead a couple of weeks. The Rainers are living at 1010 Electric Street.
Yes, sir.
Do you have a problem? Does zoning have a problem? Full-time living there?
No, personally, I wouldn't. But
Would you have issued the notice of violation if the Rainers were living full-time?
At 1010 Electric.
At 1010 Electric Street.
If you were still renting out other parts of the house to Airbnb customers, I would have a problem with that. But if you're living in the home exclusively as the Rainer family, obviously I would have no say-so.
Well, I'd like to know what it would be. But, so it's your position that under the 1993 zoning ordinance that was addressed by the Commonwealth Court
Yes.
Last year,
Yes.
that there can be no Airbnb activity in an R1A zone in Scranton.
And short-term rentals, correct. That's basically our position.
And a short-term, can you give me the definition of a short-term rental?
30 days, up to 30 days, I believe it is.
And how many, do you know how many people, do you know if there are Airbnb guests at 1010 Electric that have stayed for periods of time, that are staying for periods of time of less than 30 days?
I do not presently know.
Would that change your analysis if you knew there were guests at the Airbnb guests at 1010 Electric for periods of time of
Yeah,
30 days or more?
Yes, it would change my opinion, sure.
Okay, would you issue a notice of violation?
Especially since multiple people have been turned down for the same thing at this hearing, at these hearings.
Let me ask you, how,
In fact, there was even one right down the street from you.
how many notices of violation has the city issued since the
Not-
Reno 1010 Electric came to your attention?
Not counting the Reners, 4.
4.
And I believe we were successful in shutting them, I'm sorry, not notice of violations, because some of them had come here to the hearing board, and the hearing board turned them down. So there was never any activity as far as closing it down. 2 would be closed down, and I believe 2 came here.
2 were closed down by notice of violation?
Yes.
And
I'd be happy to give you the addresses if you like.
yeah, please do.
Give me a minute, I gotta find them. And again, one of them is fairly close to you.
And that's a fairly recent activity that was taken by your department, correct?
Since your decision came down, yes.
So the city has issued NOVs to 2 other properties.
Yes.
For
one
shared market economy.
One on East
activity.
Mountain Road and one on Electric Street.
Okay.
And both shut them down, both ceased the activity immediately.
Okay.
I don't have the exact addresses, but I'd be certainly happy to give them to you, George.
That's all right. I can call you
Sure.
at a later point and get it if necessary.
But again, one was on Electric Street, one was on East Mountain Road.
Okay. You're aware, are you not, that a zoning officer has to interpret the zoning ordinance as written by the legislative body without substituting its own judgment
Yes, sir.
about unanticipated terms?
I am, sir, yes.
Okay.
I have those addresses, George.
Pardon me?
I have those addresses.
Thank you.
The first one is 10 East Mountain Road.
10, did you say?
10, number 10, East Mountain Road. And the second is 513 Electric Street.
513?
Yes, sir.
I have no further questions.
Thank you, George.
I have no further questions for Mr. Sweeney.
Thank you.
I call Judy Riener.
You raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Name and address, please.
Yes, Judith Riener, R-E-I-H-N-E-R. We have 2 homes in the Greenridge section of Scranton. The first is at 1010 Electric Street, and the second is up at the corner at 1801 North Washington Avenue. That's the home we've been renovating.
Thank you.
Chairman, before I proceed, we had extensive testimony several years ago, 2 years ago, about Airbnb activity at our house. I noticed that there's a new member or 2 of the board. I will ask my wife questions to elicit the full detail of Airbnb, if you think the board needs to rehear that in light of its new member or members, or just pick up where we left off, given the hour. But I'll defer to the chair.
I think you can shorten it up. You don't have to be, I think most of us were here. There might be one, I think, were you here for that one? Okay.
And we spoke on the phone on one occasion about this when you came out to the house, correct? Okay, if you have any questions about anything after I'm done with my wife, she'll be happy to answer any questions you may have and by way of background. Okay, sir? Okay. Mrs. Reiner, I like having you under oath.
The only time he has control.
Now, your husband, I say.
You have to have the mic.
I will do it. Can you, picking up with the decision of this board upholding the notice of violation and the Court of Common Pleas affirming that, what can you tell the board what, if any, Airbnb activity was going on during that, after this board ruled?
Yes.
Until the Commonwealth Court ruled.
I told this board then that it was never my intent to be a rule breaker or ignorer or anything like that. I truly believed that the zoning code did not address the idea of short-term rentals. And I'd had such a positive experience, or specifically Airbnb. I had had such a positive experience as a traveler on Airbnb and have met so many interesting people. I wanted to do a host. I'd be a host. I wanted to share my home and Scranton with everybody. But I did hear what my neighbors were saying that day. And that's why I'm very surprised to hear that anyone would suggest that people are still going to the wrong house and stuff like that. I mean, I went back from this meeting and made sure to put big, bold 1010 numbers on my front steps. I've illuminated them. Every guest that checks in with me gets a reminder message the day before describing a large blue and white house with a yellow fire hydrant out in front, making it very difficult and reminding them of the one-way streets. If you try to exit my home, there is a placard going out the front door with an arrow pointing to the left, or you go out the back door, there's an arrow pointing to the right, reminding them that it's downhill one way. I also, began from that point on paying more attention to how I was allowing people to reserve the home. And I cut back on what I was doing right from the get-go. And of course, the timetable picked up pretty quickly because once the housing board got involved, we ended up stopping the operations altogether and just letting anybody who had an existing reservation to stay for free as our house guests. Because I wasn't going to destroy my profile on Airbnb because this is something I want to do in retirement. If it can't be in the city of Scranton, it will be somewhere else because it's a wonderful way to meet people and share a home that you're proud in. And so when we go through the process, once we are closed down from the housing board, we actually then were forced to move to 1801 that was still very much under renovations. That was Sunday, June 18, 2017. We relocated and rented the home to an executive from TMG Health for the remainder of the summer. That was actually a very positive experience. She paid $4,000 a month. She had a dog that she kind of let have the run of the house, which is not my personal preference, but that was a good experience. Then when she left at the end of the summer, it came to our attention that there was a family from Dunmore whose house had burned down. And they wanted to rent the house, and we were paid directly by their insurance policy. That was not anywhere near as a positive experience. We still were trying to sell the house. As they were receiving donations, debris and articles of clothing and pots and pans and everything just started building up in the house. It started to look like a Salvation Army warehouse. and we started getting very bad feedback on the showings. I ended up relenting and letting them bring the family dog, and I don't think they picked up after that dog in our fenced-in side yard the entire time they were there. It was through the winter. They never drained the furnace. When my maintenance guy came in there, he said he'd never seen a furnace that bad. You've got to get down and drain the water and dump that out with that kind of furnace for a radiator home. And so we finally got them out of there and had a contractor move in and start doing painting and spackling and everything. And then we got the Commonwealth Court decision reversing this decision, and I felt that they did it on the exact grounds that I said, that tell me what the rules are, tell me what the regulations are, I'll follow the rules, but there need to be rules that are enforced equitably. And then Mr. Hinton had proceeded to have my house, had issued a warrant on my house earlier on. Police with guns show at my house, they march through and take pictures of everything, and then I get charged with a criminal misdemeanor of having an unsafe structure, and happily, following the Commonwealth Court decision on April 10th, 2018, Judge Munley acquitted me of that and overturned that conviction. So I was reading all the signals that Airbnb was back on. I'd gone through all the steps, I'd asked all the people I thought I was supposed to ask, and I was told that, you as a homeowner can use your house with a broad definition of how you can use that house unless it is specifically restricted in the zoning code. So I did start again, but I started again with even more changes. I required a minimum 2-night stay because I felt that I also remember my kind of the little stranger danger fear, but I heard my neighbors say they didn't like the idea of stopovers. I actually thought it was fun to have the people who had landed in New York and stayed at my house on the way to Niagara Falls, international people, but I heard that my neighbors didn't like that. So I ceased that, and I also greatly raised, or significantly raised, my nightly fee and put in a healthy weekly and monthly discount. So what started happening is people were coming to Scranton with a purpose for being in Scranton. I had an attorney that's working at the University of Scranton, came here, had to sell her home in New Jersey, had to buy a home here. She was with me for 4 months. I've had another gentleman who's an engineer who's hired by a company, what is it, Alex or something, the ones that make that decking material, yeah. And he's been so busy working nights for this company that he's been with me for 5 months now. So while I'm not making as much money, because you don't have the people coming in and out, I've gone back to work full time. I'm actually missing work right now. I'm the night supervisor at the retail portion in the DeNaples Center at the University of Scranton. I was interested in having something that didn't take as much time up either. I wanted to share my home and do Airbnb, but not running it with people checking in and out. So now the only short term, I think I have 7 short-term bookings only in the entire month of April. Those are the people that come in just for like a weekend, because one of the other guests I have is a student at Penn State University, and her parents don't want her doing the driving. So she stays at my house Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. She has her own room. I don't change that room over, but then I've got a window of time where that's somebody that's not in the house using the bathrooms or keeping things busy, and I'll let someone come in for a weekend to visit their family or whatever. It's somebody that, now I admit, I still get some Office fans coming through. That won't die. People just keep coming wanting to see the sites for The Office, but they're not here stopping, through. And I just think I've done everything in the world I can to try. We own 2 homes in the city of Scranton. We're trying to sell 1010 Electric Street so we can downsize and move to the smaller one at 1801. But if we just can't, and we just drop the price another $25,000 to try to sell it. But if we can't sell that one, then I guess we'll flip and sell the house at 1801 until we can sell 1010. But, I didn't mean for this to be the big thing that it ended up being, and I really have tried very hard. Once I received the go-ahead from the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania to be even more considerate of my neighbors, but be able to do what I truly believe I was given the permission to do following that decision. It was a long answer. Sorry.
Again, in the activity, in the time since the Commonwealth Court ruling and the activity resumed,
yeah,
how many people stay there? I mean, on a given at a given time.
Well, 4, up to 4. That works out well because I also learned that if you've got too many people sharing the bathrooms, everybody understands when they come to my home that it's a shared bathroom. All areas are shared except for the privacy of your own bedroom. But 4 works out just fine.
I have no further questions.
Okay.
If the board has any, fine.
Sure. And I think you might just answer, I couldn't hear your question all the way. How many rentals do you allow in your house at one time?
It's a 6-bedroom home. Now, when we move back in, it's going to go down to 3 bedrooms that are available. Okay. But if you go to look at Airbnb right now, there's only 1 room there, and it has very limited availability. And like I said, it's been really very quiet. There are Airbnb guests that are there, but they're long-term guests primarily. The short-term part of it, which I still like to do, and I still think I have a right to do it per the Commonwealth Court opinion, but that has been greatly reduced.
So is what you run a business?
No, I share my home. I know you don't
Is what you run a business?
No, it's a hobby. It's a community.
Do you collect money for what you do?
Airbnb collects money and gives me a portion of it, yes.
Then it's a business.
Then it's a business. Come on, I can go to a
You
hot
said
dog
it was
cart.
wrong. You said it was wrong in the beginning of your answer, but yet you continue to do it.
No, I don't feel that it's wrong.
She didn't say it was wrong. You misheard.
I got 2 perfectly good ears. I didn't mishear.
No. Well, let me restate I think I absolutely was given the go-ahead. You know, and I'm a judge's daughter and an attorney's wife. I know how to read opinions. And I think that they clearly said that until the city defines what Airbnb rules and regulations are, that I'm permitted to operate and share my home with other members of my community. You can't just be on Airbnb. You have to apply. You have to submit information. They do background checks on you. If you break the rules, you're out. And I just enjoy sharing my home on that platform.
And let's go back to the original question. And I see you're passionate about what you do, but it is a business. You collect money, you give a service, and they pay you for that service.
I'm sharing expenses with people. When I go to their home, I give them money to compensate them for the expense of having me there. When they stay at my house, they compensate me for the expense of staying there.
I've stayed in Airbnb.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm sharing expenses. I think I'm paying them for the use of their property.
But you understand, I'm not making a profit on this. I'm trying to pay for the maintenance of my home until I can sell it. They are sharing my expenses.
So what do you charge? If you have 4 in there at one time, what do you charge per room?
Okay, it is, if you go on the website, you'll see typically let's round it to 4.
I'm asking, I don't want to go on your website. I don't have a computer here, so I'm asking you a question. What do you charge per night for me to come there?
We'd have to do 2 nights.
Okay, well, we'll go back to your rules.
And it's about it's $40 a night. That includes your bed, the linens, the entire house, internet, cable TV, use of my kitchen to cook your meals. It includes everything. So yes, do they reimburse me for the expenses of their being in my house that short window of time? Yes, they do. But I'm pouring every penny of it back into maintaining that home. None of it is coming out to me.
Are you required to pay a mercantile tax in the city if you run the business?
No, I don't know anything about it. I do know that Airbnb directly pays the taxes to the county. I guess they're hotel occupancy taxes or something. And I know we're not considered a hotel, but somehow, however, Airbnb has agreed that those taxes should be paid to the communities. So
do you agree they should be paid?
I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with these visitors supporting our community and paying taxes. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good way for the city to earn money.
So do you include the taxes, like when I stay in a hotel, you know, you pay for the hotel room, you pay the taxes, whatever each county charges, enormous amounts. So do you separate that down when you charge?
I don't. Okay. That's why I have to pay Airbnb a fee. Airbnb takes your money as a traveler, pays all required taxes and fees, takes a fee out of it, and pays me the balance, and then gives me the statements I need for filing my taxes at the end of the year.
Are you required, no, we'll go right now that you're not in the house, okay? Are you required to, like, say, sprinkler systems or any fire protection in that house?
No, but what you do, which is one of the reasons why I am a superhost, you can provide a level of those things, like fire extinguishers. I have, ADT alarm system. I have emergency lighting if the power goes off. This is little things that stay plugged into the outlets, and they pop on so that people can see where they're going. I do have an evacuation plan posted. I have, although it wouldn't really be needed, I do have an emergency ladder to go out the window up there on the third floor, one of those ones that drops out the window, but you wouldn't need it to drop down to the roof below. I have a first aid kit. I mean, I provide all the extra things that gives me that distinction.
So I'm asking these questions because I don't know.
Yeah.
So, were you inspected by the city to open this up and get this started? Did the city have to come in and do an inspection on your property?
The city did not, but the city could legislate that. In some areas, the inspections are required. And there definitely are some areas that mandate the number of nights someone can stay, or the number of nights out of a year I am allowed to offer share a portion of my home. All those things can be legislated, but currently are not.
So you didn't need a certificate of occupancy or anything like that to start this business up?
I don't want to, it's not a business. It's a whole new economy. It's a sharing economy. It's a whole different thing. It's a barter system more so.
I get what you're saying, but maybe I'm old school.
Maybe.
I think when I give a service and I get paid, it's a business. I mean, like I said, there's a hot dog guy up in Naog Park that when I go to him and get a hot dog, he's giving me the service and I'm paying him $3 for that hot dog. And whether he wants to charge a low amount, like evidently you do, at $40, if he wants to charge me a quarter, that's his prerogative, but I still feel it's a business at that point.
I know, but that's why they're saying these legislators have to get involved, because it is new. It's not something you would ever think about in the past, joining a community that goes around and enjoys the hospitality of each other's homes and shares expenses for that. I mean, I think at the vacation home I can have one day, just by sharing it with some other people within this community. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to improve my lifestyle when I'm older, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
Do you feel that your, and I'm going to say term business, affects the hotel business and the area and everything like that? If more and more of these pop up, and I'm not saying you, but I mean outside the area, inside the area, whatever, that skirt paying the hotel taxes and stuff like that, do you think it has an adverse effect on other business in the area?
I don't believe so, because I think the occupancies are pretty darn high for the the hotels that line 81 and going. But you got to understand, these people aren't looking to stay in a hotel. They're not just doing it to save money. I think that's the part people don't understand. They really want the hospitality. They don't want to be in some hotel room locked into that little space, especially if people here for months at a time. They enjoy having a home to share. And, I've got a pool table. I've got, it's just, books to read. There's just plenty of things to do there that you couldn't do in a hotel.
I'm done. Were you, Mr. Gaddens, were you here for the first time they came?
Yes.
I pretty much said the same thing you did. If you're collecting money, it's a business. And then I went on to say that a business isn't permitted in a R1A zone. It's in the zoning ordinance that we were just looking at before. And also, you're not living at the house currently?
We are. My son spends a good bit of time there, and I am in and out
You
of
just
that
said you were at 1801 North Washington.
We moved to 1801 North Washington when we had to rent the house out as a whole unit, and I lost access to my home. And that was a horrible experience for me. It was not maintained or cared for well. So as soon as I was able to get control of my house back, I am in and out of there on pretty darn much a daily basis. I spend the night there several times a month as it works out.
But have you rented out your house as Airbnb the last month? Have you been using Airbnb?
Yes.
And have you been living in the house while you were doing that?
Not at that particular time, but again, remember, Airbnb, the whole point of what the Commonwealth Court is saying, you can legislate whether or not I have to be there 365 nights a year. Or as there have been several other cases, like in the Poconos and such, where people rent, they stay there a certain number of weeks, and then they share it other weeks in order to be able to pay for that vacation home. I mean, it's just, you can make those rules, but they just haven't been made yet, is my point.
Were you done questioning, or?
I
think we know what's happened. I'm done.
I am done with my questions. I would, before we rest, I gave the members of the board and your solicitor a legal opinion. I believe there's 3 legal doctrines that prohibit the city from doing what they're doing to us right now. The double jeopardy doctrine, res judicata, and collateral estoppel. As you probably know, or from television, double jeopardy is more of a criminal concept than a civil concept, but it has been applied consistently in municipal matters that could lead to a summary criminal conviction like my wife's. So essentially, a second prosecution of the same crime is prohibited by the United States and the Pennsylvania constitutions. Res judicata and collateral estoppel are civil litigation concepts that are designed to prevent the re-litigation of issues. If you look at Exhibit 1, the issue was a violation of Section 306 of the zoning ordinance. If you look at Exhibit 2, it is the very same section, the very same violation. If you look to Exhibit 3, it confirms that they're still complaining about illegal short-term rentals. Mr. Sweeney talked about it at length. Res judicata and collateral estoppel prohibit relitigation of claims that were asserted or should have been asserted. And we believe, and I'll cite Jacqueline v. Zoning Hearing Board of Hatboro Borough, Namcoke Inc. versus Zoning Hearing Board of Horsham, and Slice of Life LLC versus Hamilton Township Zoning Hearing Board. All 3 stand for the proposition. The city litigated these issues with us. The city lost. The city is disgruntled. They're relitigating. It's prohibited by the Constitution and the laws of the state of Pennsylvania. And we believe, based upon the legal authority I provided to you, ladies and gentlemen, the NOB should be dismissed. And with that, we rest, and any other party can participate.
Dan, are you able to give us an opinion if we should be hearing this after this was overturned in Commonwealth Court?
Well, just a minute, Mr. Chairman. I have a comment to make regarding George's comments. As everyone knows, I'm no attorney, and I'm not trying to pretend I am. However, 306B states, unless otherwise provided by law or specifically stated in the ordinance, including Section 105, land or structure shall only be used or occupied for a use specifically listed in this term, this table, 306 that George is referring to. Therefore, and it goes on to say, any use shall be only determined if it complies with the other requirements of the ordinance, which nothing in 306 is listed at all. Then it finally says, where different requirements are stated, and we state that this is a different requirement that is in 306, For the same use in this ordinance, the most restrictive requirement shall apply, which is not permitted. We're not litigating a bed and breakfast, which is also in 306. We're litigating something totally different. And I disagree with George's assumption that we are litigating a bed and breakfast. He's right. He won that argument.
They're litigating short-term rental, and the legal doctrines I provided preclude them. Now, the intervening parties raised at the Commonwealth Court some of these very other issues that weren't asserted by the city. But res judicata and collateral estoppel are not limited to, in this case, to just bed and breakfast. It's limited to violations of Section 303 because of short-term rental activity, and that was litigated. We've prevailed. They can't raise it. They can't raise it again, consistent with the law of Pennsylvania.
I don't understand that.
Jack Sweeney I consider him a friend of mine.
And I, as well, and I don't understand that argument.
But the issue is what Mr. Hinton and Mr. Sweeney are not aware of is that the Commonwealth Court in Pennsylvania has on at least 5 occasions, Slice of Life, Riener, I can't recall the other ones right now, but I can have determined that Airbnb activity is consistent with single-family dwelling. It's not looked at unless it's legislated as short-term rental. But the Commonwealth Court has repeatedly reversed zoning boards saying that the information does not.
And Jack, it isn't fair. I mean, you came after me the last time and said I was operating a boarding house or a B&B.
I thought it was a bed and breakfast, yeah.
Now you're saying you could just keep calling it something different and come after me every year. I mean, you have to raise...
short-term rentals are short-term rentals, Judy.
But I'm not doing anything different now than I was then.
And that's exactly why they wouldn't be permitted in 306.
Well, no, as long as you're consistent with the single-family dwelling, the activity can be done, and you refuse to acknowledge the Commonwealth Court says you can be in a single-family dwelling and engage in shared market economy activity.
I don't have that information available to me, George.
This is the third time you're saying the same thing, okay?
Fine.
Maybe somebody else would, from the audience, would like to say something.
We rest.
Or whatever.
Members, please, if I could say, I am way late for work. I have to go. But can I let my husband please finish? Yeah. Can my husband finish this? May I go to work?
Sure.
If anyone has, I guess the issue is, if any of you have questions, now's the time. I have no more for her.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
Mark Seitzinger, 1112 Columbia Street, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509. Board, at this time, I want to respectfully request that the minutes of the August 10th, 2016 zoning hearing board transcript be entered into the record. In its totality, they directly correlate to this case, and not necessarily on an Airbnb, but on the issues that I raised regarding fire safety and everything else, but they're all in there. I'd like to submit them to the board.
No objection.
So admitted. So admitted.
What's that?
It is admitted.
Mr. Chairman, would it be possible at some point for me to get a copy of any exhibits that intervening parties provide?
I'm sure you can get this copy when we're done.
Okay, thank you.
And also for the record, the Greenridge Neighborhood Association, for which I'm the president, was an intervening party
in the Court of Common Pleas case with the City of Scranton George and Judy Riener versus the City Zoning Board, the appellee, and the Greenridge Neighborhood Association as the intervener. We were involved in that as well. That case, and I don't know if you have a copy of it, I only have one copy of it with me.
They have Exhibit 4.
All right, Exhibit 4. I have my own copy of it, so I can't really tell you, but if you read, and I can't really get further into it than what I have here, if I can find the page. Issue and discussion. The issue before the court is whether Mr. and Mrs. Riener are permitted to operate a bed and breakfast in a residential neighborhood. That's different than what we're here for today, if I'm not mistaken, based on what was put to the board. Further, now I have a couple things. I'm a resident of that neighborhood, okay, and they can put up all the signs they want, Mr. Riener. The people are still coming the wrong way. They're pulling out and going right, and they're coming into oncoming traffic. And as a matter of fact, almost killed my wife. So, do I take it personally? 100%. They can put all of the signs up that they want, it still happens. However, I do have to pose a question, and it could be to you guys and whoever wants to answer. If you want to do it the right way, wouldn't you have gone to the board first to see if it's permissible in that area to begin with before opening up, and I'm going to say it, a business? I relace gloves. I don't do it at home. It's a business when I take money from somebody. I may only charge $10 for 2 pieces of lacing, but at the end of the day, that's still money in my pocket. I do that through the business that I work for. If I did it at home, I'd have to pay mercantile tax. Are they paying mercantile tax to the City of Scranton? Are they registered as a business in the City of Scranton? It's a hotel. It is straight up 1,000% a hotel at this point. A ladder coming out the 3rd floor window is technically illegal against the codes of the City of Scranton and the fire code. If I'm not mistaken, it also violates the 2009 International Building Code. A ladder is not permissible. It has to be a permanent structure out of the building directly to the ground. So that violates it right there. But they've stated that the City of Scranton hasn't inspected the property. It's never been inspected. Is there emergency lighting? Is there a sprinkler system? Listen, I rent rooms. I rent the Marriott. They have sprinkler systems. They have emergency lighting. They have exit signs. I pay a fee. I get a room. And I'm not disagreeing and I'm not arguing with them. Do I think zoning codes need to change? Absolutely. Do I think they're violating the zoning code? 1,000%. It's a business in an R1A zone. There's no other way around it. Now, if I'm also not mistaken, I think they ruled in the courts, and I just want to make sure, I think they ruled in the courts that no food was being served, correct?
I read that.
That
because food being served.
We did not provide food to anyone. They had access to the facility, to the kitchen and the microwaves throughout the house.
Okay. Now, in the last hearing.
Well, we argued that before the Commonwealth Court.
I understand that.
But they didn't buy it.
Read the comments from Airbnb where they're providing food and drink to them, and that violates what they stated in the last zoning board hearing. So, I mean, we can go round and round in circles in this all we want. And let me word this correctly, and I don't mean to get heated, but I've also been sitting here for 3 hours like you gentlemen have, and Mrs. Newcomb. But last hearing that we had here, Mrs. Riener stated that Homeland Security checked the tenants before they came in and there were background checks on them. Who's doing background checks? That was stated at the last hearing.
I remember Jim Mulligan asking the question. Neither me nor my wife have any idea whatsoever what.
Okay.
For international travel.
Okay. This evening she stated there were background checks done on them. If you look back through the transcript, there are background checks done on them. What background checks are done on them?
Well, I think she said that with respect to Airbnb applicants, and Airbnb does due diligence. The level of it, who does it, I don't know.
Okay.
But I know it's done.
Okay. I coach baseball for a school. I have to go through 3 different background checks. FBI, state police, and local. I have to have them all done. We have people in the back of that packet that I provided to you, and you can see it there. There are about, I don't know, I'm probably going to say about 15 to 16 pages worth of comments from potential or from prospective people that have stayed at the properties. One that kind of stuck out to me a little bit was back a little bit further, and I can show you guys afterwards. The guy's name was Thomas. Judy's rooms were perfect, as well as the neighborhood and house. Well, I appreciate that. I live there. Thank you. We didn't see her, but were greeted by her husband and son welcomingly. There was indeed a Keurig in our room with tons of K-cups. The bed was insanely comfortable. The room was quiet and spacious, and even included looks on both sides of the doors. I'm assuming that says locks. We could tell Judy and her family take Airbnb seriously. This was definitely a 4 to 5 star hotel stay. That's what they're calling it. The people who are commenting on Judy's Airbnb are commenting that it's a hotel. Now, for all intents and purposes, gentlemen and Mrs. Newcomb, this is a hotel. If people are coming and staying for a minimum number of nights, it's 2 nights, minimum 2 night stay. My wife went to Chicago. She stayed for 2 nights. It was a hotel. It's a hotel at this point in R1A zone. And that's what we have in our neighborhood. We didn't buy our properties in our neighborhood to have hotels in our neighborhood. I don't ever want to deny anybody the ability to make money. I don't. That's their personal business. But when it affects the neighborhood that I live in, and it affects the potential safety of my family, that's where I have a problem. You have a property that it's attached to. I believe it's a shared driveway, if I'm not mistaken, correct? I believe there's a
shared driveway
correct.
up the street and a close property line down the street.
Correct, and I've witnessed numerous times where cars were parked on both sides and the residents wouldn't be able to get into their driveway. That's not my problem. That's an issue that you have to work with your neighbors. I get that.
We don't work with our neighbors on any parking. One of the changes we made is even when we're staying at 1010, we've left our cars at 1801 to alleviate that issue.
Okay. As you can see, there are issues here. I will never deny somebody the right to make money. That's their prerogative. He's an attorney, and a very good one. He chose that profession. If they wanted to open up a hotel, they should have called the Hiltons. That's how I feel. This is a hotel in an R1A zone. It's a business in an R1A zone that is not paying business privilege tax. Are they paying garbage fees? Because if it's a hotel, now you're talking about commercial garbage fees, which means private hauler, not the $300 fee that everybody else pays. There's a lot of issues that need to be resolved on this, any way you look at it. Okay? I pay a $300 fee. I live in a single-family home. They're paying a $300 fee, and they're renting the property out and making $40 a night on those people. I don't have anything personal against the Reaners. This is strictly business now for me. This violates the people that live next door to it, the people that live around it, and quite frankly, the city who's trying to enforce it. We didn't bring this matter before the board. The city did. We're here to support the city. We're here to support our neighborhood. So at the end of the day, I'm asking the board to side with your own zoning officer and your director of licensing, inspections, and permits in noting that they are running a hotel out of their property. It's a short-term rental. That's what people are paying down the street at the Hilton and the Radisson. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
We're good, thank you. You raise your right hand, please.
My name is John Foley. I'm at a property at 1020 Electric Street.
Could you raise your right hand, please?
I certainly
Do you
will.
solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Name and address, please.
John Foley, I own the property at 1020 Electric Street, next door to 1010. First, let me thank you for your service. You are doing things that I would never do. I'm retired. I have no intentions of doing anything anymore. I thought this issue was going to go away. This issue has been lingering since 2014, but I could actually go back to 2011, but I would have to drag up other issues, and I would have to get access to documents. But for purposes of this, 2014, we made numerous complaints to licensing and permits. We talked to everybody. The city seemed to drag their feet on it for a while, but eventually we were here at this board. This board made a decision that they were in violation of the regulations and denied the appeal of the Reaners. The Reaners appealed it to the Court of Common Pleas. Judge Corbett agreed and denied the Reaner appeal. Reaner appealed to Commonwealth Court. It was heard before a 3-judge panel. One of the things that Reaner argued that it was not a B&B, rather, it was a new business model, which I thought was innovative. The 3-judge panel agreed with a concept of a new business model. We wanted the city, instead of to just deal with the decision of the 3-judge panel, we wanted to go before the full court. The city of Scranton made a decision not to. I don't want to address why they did or they did not. But I will tell you, it did spur some of us on to do other things that I believe ultimately had far-reaching implications on the city of Scranton and other people. The new business model struck me because my understanding that all businesses have to register with the city of Scranton. To the best of my knowledge, this property has never registered with the city of Scranton as a business. There's no sharing of expenses. Frankly, I'm going to suggest that if somebody were to look at the tax return, they would probably find that the gross income is treated as business income, rental income. But I digress. My understanding of the regulations is if you have a business, even if it's in a personal residence, you must obtain a certificate of occupancy. To the best of my knowledge, the Rainers never obtained a certificate of occupancy, may not have applied for one. I don't know, I never asked for the information. I do know that one day, licensing inspection personnel, I believe it was Mr. Hinton, with Scranton Police, did show up at the property. Surprise visit. They identified multiple housing violations, and they posted a notice on the door. Before they got back to their vehicles, it was taken off the door, torn up, and thrown on the front porch. I don't know whatever became of that. I don't know whether the city ever litigated it. If they decided not to, I don't know why. I can speculate, but that doesn't do me any good. I like documents. It was brought up before, the mercantile tax. I don't know whether they're paying mercantile tax, but everything leads me to believe that they may not have paid a mercantile tax. That is an issue. It is a business.
all businesses, City of Scranton, mercantile tax. That's simple. The information to verify the gross receipts, they have to provide that with the mercantile tax filing. My understanding, that's usually information that comes straight from either the federal or state tax return. Mrs. Reeder was correct. She did have a contractor working at the property. He first worked at the property up on North Washington Avenue, and then he was on the property at 1010 Electric Street. Sean was on his name, I believe, George. And I had an opportunity to speak with that individual. That individual is very forthright, nice guy. Had a little problem, police showed up, they took him out, but hey, I believe that the guy's a born-again Christian, and everybody needs a second chance. But what he did say, that he did work there, and as part of that work, he was given a room at that property. But I can verify that they did have a contractor there based on that discussion. This issue just will not go away. At some point, it must go away. I found out about this, I'd say maybe 2 weeks ago. We spend most of the winter in Florida. We're not around here. And I only found out about it after we got back. I understand that a couple of properties identical to what we're talking about tonight have been denied certificates of occupancy, a license. And that became troubling to me, because if that's the case, then why wasn't that done in 2014? But I don't want to get into that, because, as I said, that spawned a whole bunch of other issues. I don't think this is going to go away. The neighbors don't want it. We never wanted it. The Reenders don't live there. They live up on North Washington Avenue. I can only address before we went to Florida and after we came back. We don't see them there. The Reenders have said that they're contemplating moving back. And possibly they might. But are they going to take the for sale sign that was put up today in front of their house? There seems to be a difference. We are moving back, but we have a for sale sign in front of our house. I believe if you decide tonight, hopefully, against the Reenders, that they will appeal it, no different than they did the last time. They will appeal it to Court of Common Pleas. I believe that they'll lose. I believe that they will lose this time in Commonwealth Court. People have taken a special interest in this project. But it could take 2 to 3 years. During that 2 to 3 year period, we are not enjoying the property because we have a hotel next door. I still think it's a B&B, but what's my opinion worth? But during that period, they are going to enjoy the revenue stream by having guests stay there. Those guests stay there not just on the second floor, they have guests stay there on the third floor, where there is one entrance and egress. I used to go into that house when we first moved in, kind old lady. We used to take care of her. So I got into that house. But I also know that that becomes a problem if there's a fire. I also know that it's not handicap accessible. That's a federal issue. We can deal with that one separate. But knowing that they're going to enjoy the revenue
and we are going to be penalized. We will not have the quiet enjoyment of our property. I would urge you to go one step further this time, that within the city zoning code, there is a provision, I believe it's 103. There's a reference to the PA Municipal Code, section 616, I think, that if there is a determination that there is a violation, that there's a penalty up to $500 per violation. If you decide that they are in violation, I am asking you in the kindest way, please build into your decision the penalty. Because every day that it continues in operation, even during the appeal period, that penalty becomes cumulative. But not to worry, because the Rainers won't have to pay that penalty during the appeal process. They will only have to pay that penalty if they lose. So what's the fuss? How confident do they feel? I know that I'm not going to have quiet enjoyment of the property. I think they should have some skin in the game. This is a way to put skin in the game. I don't believe that you folks have ever done that before, even though you have had the right to it. So what I would appreciate, if you decide against them, that you include everything that we have discussed tonight. That it's a business. They've acknowledged it's a business. They acknowledge that in Commonwealth Court. That they don't have a certificate of occupancy. They may not have paid the mercantile tax. I would appreciate it if you build in this penalty. You may not be advised not to do it, but frankly, I think this is a way to deter people from violating city ordinances. Not to mention that if they are not successful, that money goes to the cash-strapped city of Scranton. Now let me tell you one other thing before I finish, because I would be remiss if I did not do this. A couple of years ago, before that decision, I was unhappy with the city of Scranton. Extremely unhappy to the point that they were not being responsive within the zoning code. So what I did, I embarked on a review of other activities within the city of Scranton that the city of Scranton might be ignoring. Focusing first on the Department of Licensing, Permit, and Inspections and permits. I was convinced that Mr. Hinton was behind this, and I said a lot of nasty things about him. Believe me, I did. Most of you have probably heard them. And I made my mission to look at absolutely everything that he did. But I found it curious when I heard that after the city had shut down recently a couple of properties, and I don't know where those properties are, that Mr. Hinton said that if we're shutting these down, we have to shut down 1010 Electric Street. That took me back. Now that leads me to believe that all the things that I was concerned about with Mr. Hinton, I believe that Mr. Hinton may have been instructed to it. My perception. That still will not deter me from trying to find out who did that instruction and why. But right now, everything that I've done to Mr. Hinton, I apologize for. Records that I have that have never seen the light of day will probably be taken out to my fire pit and burned. So for those of you who will see them, long before I will, tell them I've apologized. With that, gentlemen, unless there's somebody else, have a great evening, and your decisions Your deliberations are appreciated.
Thank you.
And he probably practiced that speech for a week.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address, please.
My name is Albert Young. I live at 1713 Wyoming Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18509. 1.5 blocks away from the Reener's home. I won't take up much of your time because I've been here almost 4 hours myself, like you folks. What I have to say really does not have anything to do with political inference or anything else. Just remember that one thing, it's R1A zone. No hotels, no Airbnb, no nothing else but residential homes. Now, gentlemen, I'm here tonight to oppose any further advancement of this project. The idea has been bounced around from every corner of the state. And now I think it's time to take politics and money out of the equation. There have been numerous deficiencies listed in this home. And I just wonder whether any of them have been ever remedied. Maybe they have, maybe not. I don't know. I've been through that home years ago. I dated the young lady that used to live there before the Reeners moved in. But now you can put lipstick on the pig, you can shine the trunk of an elephant, or you can pet the head of a donkey. But what do you get at the end of the situation? You get an animal, and that's all you get out of it. I think it's time now that this board place a cease and desist order on this situation. And if there are any non-compliant items on this, I feel that the board should place the fine starting at $500 per day. And after 30 days, it should go to $1,000 until things are remedied one way or another. And with that, gentlemen, ladies, I will say good night.
Thank
and
you.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Anything else, sir?
Just 30 seconds. The issues before this board tonight pertain to the 1993 zoning ordinance and only the 1993 zoning ordinance. It has nothing to do with ladders, fire alarms, mercantile taxes, certificate of occupancy, or anything else we've heard about tonight. There are remedies for that. Mr. Hinton has already started another housing board issue with respect to that. My wife and I were both convicted of having unsafe structures under that at the magistrate level, and those convictions were appealed, and we were both acquitted. Let the process be with those entities and those departments what it is. The ladies and gentlemen that we have to decide tonight, or deferring on legal issues, I don't know, relate only to the zoning ordinance, and the Commonwealth Court could not be more direct. You can have a single-family home implementing shared economy, Airbnb activity, and not be valid of zoning ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. So then how are we going to vote?
All right, let me just make a couple of comments just to clarify some things that were kind of left up in the air. Mr. Foley seemed to imply that after the three-judge decision by the Commonwealth Court, that the city didn't take any further action. Let me just clarify that was discussed, whether to bring it to appeal to the nine-member panel. The city decided it would not be money well spent, but Attorney Mulligan, on behalf of the Neighborhood Association, did exactly that. So that issue it was attempted to go before the nine-judge panel, and that was denied. So there was nothing further for us to do at that point. That was kind of left out hanging in the air, and I just wanted to clarify that. As to tonight's hearing, the Commonwealth Court seems to be pretty clear that the Airbnb, that ship has sailed. What we really are looking at tonight is the notice of violation includes a short-term rental. I don't believe that was specifically addressed by the Commonwealth Court, so I think we're kind of limited as to whether this would be qualify as a short-term rental. You guys have had other cases with short-term rentals before you. So we're really deciding the appeal from the notice of violation. So your vote has to be you're going to uphold the appeal in favor of the Rainers or overturn the appeal in favor of the city. Deny the appeal, I should say, rather than overturn. So So a denial of I think it's better to say a denial of the appeal would be in favor of the city, and a granting of the appeal would be in favor of the Rainers. I think that's how our vote has to be. Granting the appeal / Rainers. Denial of the appeal / city.
Well, I was going to...
Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have to make a motion for this?
You need a motion.
Before we do that, it's been mentioned a couple times, the property's on the market, and I've already had clients ask to see it and set those showings up, so I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, Mr. Marks has accused himself. He is abstaining because he's involved in the marketing of the house.
Dan, one more time, just for clarity. The two ways to vote.
You grant the appeal in favor of the Rainers, or deny the appeal, and then it goes in favor of the city.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Gattens.
Deny.
Mr. Palmetessa.
Deny.
Ms. Newcomb.
Deny.
Chairman Walsh.
Deny. A vote of 4-0, you've been denied.
Hang on a second.
You got to adjourn the meeting so we can shut the camera off.
Meeting adjourned.